My first public entry into what we might call the solidarity phase was that I was very angry when the French president, then Giscard d'Estaing, warned the Poles that they ought not to upset the Soviet apple cart. And I wrote a short letter to the Times, which I'll read to you, because this connected me with the Polish community. Sir, you report the French president as warning Poland not to upset the Soviet apple cart by attempting to cast adrift from socialism. Poland had to be conscious of the limitations of its geographical and strategic situation, he added. Whilst it would be wrong for the West to urge Poland upon dangerous courses for which that country should then have to bear the consequences without Western assistance, it lies perfectly within the moral privilege of the Poles to take bolder action if they wish, at whatever risk to themselves or to the West. We cannot require them to live under Soviet hegemony indefinitely because of risks to a stability upon which we depend. My Member of Parliament was the former Conservative Prime Minister Edward Heath, and I drew him into this matter. And he did things behind the scenes. On the 18th of May, 1982, the Times published a happier letter from me. You were kind enough to publish a letter from me at the turn of the year, January the 11th, in which I appealed for the release from internment under Polish martial law of Professor Władysław Bartoszewski. I hasten now to share with you the good news that the Polish authorities have released him and he is free to resume lecturing at Lublin University. Releasing him, the authorities have asked how he proposes to conduct himself in the future. By my reason and my conscience, as throughout the past 40 years, he has replied. Władysław Bartoszewski was sent to Auschwitz by the Nazis for aiding the Jews and was imprisoned for years after the war by the communists. He expresses his deep thanks to all those in Britain who have intervened on his behalf. Adding my own thanks to the Polish authorities, I appeal to them to extend their magnanimity to two, among many others, who still held, Mr. Tadeusz Mazowiecki, a distinguished past editor of the monthly magazines Sznak and Wierc, and more lately of Solidarity Weekly, and Mr. Kazimierz Janusz, the Christian writer and philosopher. So they were the letters, but behind them in the background was the stalking, hulking figure of Edward Heath. And at that time I was master of the Catholic Writers Guild, which was the Keys, known as the Keys, and I invited Professor Bartoszewski to come and address us. And it was an exciting week, hosted by the Moklinskis, Christina being his interpreter. And he came to a pub in Fleet Street and spoke to us, and it was very exciting. And he kept correcting people who mispronounced the Pope's name. Wojtyła, not Wojtyla. But it was a great and spirited talk. And I had the privilege of then taking him to Sidcup, where I lived, and he came and he had dinner in my house, and we had the Bartoszewski wine glasses. We'd fairly recently broken the last one, I think. But also, I took him and introduced him to Edward Heath, the MP, and you have a picture of that meeting. And Edward Heath said to him that he had been able to do far more quietly in the matter than he could have done by making a great public fuss. And I was impressed by that.